truth about no money down property deals. Is it really possible to buy property using no money at all? And what are some of the methods that people use to achieve this right now? And by the way, if you have no money at all, I've got something very special to share with you at the end of this training to say how even you can get started if you have no money at all. So my name's Simon Zucci. I've been investing in property for 30 years and teaching people like you how to become more successful property investors for the last 22 years. There's no one in the UK who's been teaching other people to be successful investors for as long as I have consistently. And I can absolutely tell you I've had hundreds, if not maybe thousands of clients who have bought property using none of their own money. Now, in some cases, money was required, but it wasn't necessarily their money. And I'm going to talk to you about 4 different ways of buying properties. So let's talk about the first conventional way, where you go and buy a property. You can normally borrow from a bank 75% of the value of that property or the purchase price, whichever is lower. And then you put in a 25% deposit. Then you're going to have some closing costs, such as your legal costs, your stamp duties, etc. So I'd normally budget about 30 to 35% of the purchase price is the money that you need to put in. And the way you fund that could be from redundancy, could be inheritance, could be from a divorce, could be from selling shares, selling a business, all sorts of ways of funding property investing. So most people using method 1, they put money into property, they sit back and wait. A few years later, when the value and the rents have gone up, they refinance, they remortgage. In other words, they increase the amount of debt up to 75% of the new value, and then they take out some money, having paid off the original mortgage. They then use that to go and buy their next property. Now, I would suggest that actually if you're releasing equity from property, which is how most people start, whether that's releasing money from your own home, or maybe you've inherited a property, or maybe it's a rental property you bought years and years ago. If you release equity from property, you're borrowing money from a bank, you're paying them interest. So I would argue that's not actually your money. If it was your money, why would you have to pay it back? Why would you have to pay interest on it? So a lot of people don't like the idea of using other people's money, but they're already doing it. So let's talk about that second concept of using other people's money to fund the deal. So some deals, there is money required, but the point is it doesn't have to be your money. Now, it's very important to understand a few critical points here. First of all, why on earth would someone lend money to you to fund your property deals? Why would they do that? Well, it's quite simple, really. They do that because you can help them to make money. They lend you money. You pay them interest on that money more than they could get in the bank. So first of all, you need to know how to find really great deals. Secondly, you need to know people who like you and trust you and believe in you that you're going to give them the money back. Obviously, people want to lend you money to make a return, but actually they're more concerned about actually getting their money back. And it might sound surprising, but I'm pretty sure if you're watching this video, you will know some people, some friends, family, parents, grandparents who might have some money sitting in the bank doing absolutely nothing for them right now. And actually, once you know what you're doing, once you demonstrate you've got some knowledge and experience, then you could potentially access some of that money for your benefit and also for their benefit as well. So that's how we buy if we need to put money in, but we're using other people's money. The third way is a bit more creative. This is where we find motivated sellers. People who have a property related problem and they believe selling this problem fast is going to solve that problem for them. And because of that, the speed and certainty of the sale is more important than the amount of money they actually get. So they might be prepared to sell their property what we call below market value, BMV. Now, if you buy it at enough of a discount, my personal best is 36% below the RICS valuation. RICS is the Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors. It's who all the banks would use. They'd use a RICS qualified surveyor to assess what is the property actually worth, the true market value based on like comparisons. So 36% is my best. Some of my students have done a lot more than that. But if you buy ideally 20 to 25% below market value, you have to hold the property for at least 6 months before you remortgage. You might buy it with bridging funds or buy it with cash from a private investor. And then after you've owned it, you can then go to a bank and apply for a remortgage. This is based on the value, not the purchase price. And you get another survey, and on the values there, you can refinance and then take out all of the initial money used to buy the property. It's what I call momentum investing. So rather than, like the first example, buying a property and waiting years and years for the value to go up, because we're buying at a discount, we're forcing the appreciation, refinancing very quickly, and either using that money to go and buy another property or pay it back to the person who we borrowed the money from in the first place. And then the fourth way of buying and controlling property is using a strategy, or rather a tool called a purchase lease option, otherwise known as a PLO or a lease option. This is where you don't actually buy that property now, you control the property. What that means is you take on responsibility as if you bought the property, but you don't have to put in a big deposit, you don't get a mortgage, and it can be done for literally very, very small amount of money. So what that means is that you control this property, you get cash flow from it, so monthly profit, and potential long-term capital growth. Now, you control it for a period of time, 3, 5, 7 years, and at the end of that option period, you have a few choices. You can either walk away from the deal if you want, you're not obligated to buy, but generally from an ethical point of view, we enter into an agreement with the intention to buy. If you buy the property, at that point, you would need a mortgage, and usually you need a deposit. Some of my students have experienced such good capital growth that the equity growth is actually the deposit they use. So they haven't had to put a deposit. In fact, sometimes the mortgage has been higher than the purchase price. They've ended up being paid money in their bank the day they actually buy the property. Now that's what I call property magic. So lease options are an incredibly powerful tool, massively misunderstood. Most investors have no idea what they are. And if I speak to a room of property investors, maybe a number of people in the room have heard about it. But when I say who's actually done it, most people put their hands down because they don't know how to do it properly. At the end of this video, I'm going to give you an opportunity to come and join me on some live online training, in which I'm going to teach you exactly how can you go and find these deals for yourself. I did say if you have no money at all, then there's something I was going to share with you. Now, you might have heard the idea of becoming a deal sourcer. This is where you go and find really good deals and you sell them to other people who do have money and they just want to acquire those properties and they're happy to pay you a fee because they don't know how to find deals. They don't have the time, knowledge or inclination to find them themselves. And typically fees you might make might be £3,000 to £5,000. Now again, you need to know how to find deals in the first place. You need to grow your network so you've got people you can pass those deals to. But let me tell you, the very best deals you can find and sell on to other investors are purchase lease options. Let me explain why. The reason is because the person you sell it to, they don't need to put a big deposit in. They don't need to get a mortgage, so potentially far more people who would buy that deal from you rather than a deal that does require the typical 25% deposit plus costs. So do yourself a favor. If you are a deal sourcer already or you want to become a deal sourcer, the best type of deal to find would be lease options. So let me give you a very relevant example that pulls this all together. So one of my mastermind students, I literally had a phone call with her yesterday. She has just done a deal. It's a lease option deal for a 22 property portfolio. So a landlord who doesn't want the properties anymore wants to get out of the game. He wants them to take over the responsibility to look after the properties, but he doesn't necessarily need the money now. Now, why has he agreed to this lease option? Well, he could get a higher price doing the lease option rather than selling in the market now where he'd have to sell at a discount. So the seller is getting rid of the hassle and it's getting a higher price than he would from a conventional sale. So it works for him. Somebody has gone and found this investor and packaged this deal up and they are charging a £100,000 finder's fee. How would you like £100,000 for just finding and packaging a deal sent to someone else? My masterminder has become aware of this deal and is doing this deal. But guess what? She's not using her money. She's gone and found an investor who's bringing in the £100,000. She didn't find a deal. The deal sourcer found the deal. He's earning 100,000. She's sitting in the middle. She's going to have a 50-50 joint venture in this 22 property portfolio. She's putting none of her own money in. It's going to give her cash flow, and it's a 6-year deal. She's going to get potentially really good capital growth over the next 6 years, or at least 50% of that capital growth. So again, that's another example of not using any of your own money to do a deal and combining some of these strategies. So when you are creative, when you have some good knowledge and you get out there and actually look for deals, go and network, go and speak to people, there are deals out there that other people are doing. What will stop you from doing deals like this is your mindset, is a belief that, oh, I don't think I can do it, or I don't think deals like this exist, or I don't have the money to do deals. And if you've been listening to the video, you don't have to have the money. And the reality is other people are out there doing this right now. So could you if just you have the knowledge and the expertise. I'm running a live online training teaching you exactly how to spot these opportunities, what to say to the owners, and how to either acquire them yourself or pass them on to other people for a fee. Now, it's live online training. There's going to be a link in the description below. It's going to be very soon after I publish this video. So if you're watching this YouTube video, I highly recommend you subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to make sure you're notified anytime a timely video like this comes out, because when I offer live online training at no cost, if you're watching this video 6 months later, you will have missed the live training. So it's really good to watch these videos whenever they come out. And hopefully you like this video. It's given you some ideas and inspiration. Please hit the like button. Please come and comment below. Tell me what you like, what you don't like. I'll happily answer those and give me ideas for the next video we're going to do as well. But suffice to say, yes, you can buy property, no money down. Sometimes there is money required, but it doesn't necessarily have to be your money. And I've got a lot more videos around this topic on this YouTube channel, so come and watch some other videos as well. But in the meantime, look for the link in the description, scroll down, click on the link, come and register for the live online training with me. I'm going to teach you how you can build your portfolio without deposits and without mortgages. Until the next time, I encourage you as ever to invest with knowledge, invest with skill.